A cleaner with a sick child was humiliated and fired by her boss. Days later, she nearly fainted when she saw her bank balance. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon when Maria Gomez, 35, woke up in her small apartment. The first light of day timidly slipped through the worn curtains, illuminating walls marked by time and furniture that had seen better days. Despite the modesty of her home, every corner was meticulously clean, a reflection of Maria's strong and disciplined character. With silent and precise movements, Maria got out of bed and headed to the next room, where her 8-year-old son, Luke, slept soundly. His small body was wrapped in blankets, and his breathing was barely a whisper, a sound that, though faint, never ceased to worry Maria. Luke had cystic fibrosis, a disease that had marked their lives with a calendar of medical treatments and constant hospital visits. Every day was a battle, and every breath Luke took was a victory Maria never took for granted. Maria watched her son for a few moments, grateful that at least for now he was sleeping peacefully. It was in those moments of peace that Maria allowed her heart to soften, remembering that her life hadn't always been so hard. Years ago, before Luke was born, she had dreamed of a different future, one filled with love and opportunities. But those dreams faded when her partner abandoned her upon learning she was pregnant. Since then, Maria decided that no matter what, she would raise her son on her own. Maria's determination had brought her to where she was today, working as a cleaner in one of the city's most prestigious law firms. It wasn't an easy or well-paid job, but it allowed her to put food on the table and, with much effort, pay for Luke's medical treatments. However, the reality was that, no matter how hard she worked, she always seemed to be fighting against the current, trying to stay afloat in a sea of debts and worries. After ensuring that Luke was still sleeping peacefully, Maria headed to the small bathroom to prepare for the day. Her movements were quick and precise. She had no time to waste. As she washed her face with cold water, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. The worry lines were evident on her face, and fatigue had permanently settled in her eyes. But there was no room for self-pity. Maria knew that, as always, she needed to stay strong. With her cleaner's uniform on, Maria left the bathroom and took one last look at Luke before heading out. Her son was her reason for being, and every day that passed, she found in him the strength to continue. With a silent promise to return soon, she closed the door softly behind her and headed to work, walking through the still deserted streets of the city. The law firm was an imposing building in the city center, with marble floors and offices filled with natural light. For many, it would be a symbol of success and power, but for Maria, it was just another place where she had to work silently, cleaning up the traces of lives of people who probably never noticed her existence. As she entered the building, she greeted the janitor, Javier Munoz, an older man with whom she had shared kind words on more than one occasion. Javier returned the greeting with a tired smile, recognizing in Maria a woman of great strength, despite the challenges she faced. The firm was still quiet when Maria began her daily routine. The silence was interrupted only by the sound of her footsteps and the distant echo of early morning conversations. Maria worked with almost mechanical precision, moving from one office to another, ensuring everything was spotless before the lawyers and their clients arrived. It was a job she had done hundreds of times, but she performed it with the same care every day. While Maria was cleaning, she crossed paths with Sofia Martinez, a 28-year-old lawyer who, unlike most at the firm, had always shown her kindness. Sofia greeted her with a genuine smile and a good morning, to which Maria responded with a slight nod and a faint smile. Though their interaction was brief, those small gestures of respect meant a lot to Maria. Sofia, although she didn't know it, represented a small light in a place where invisibility was the norm. The contrast between Maria's life and the luxury of the firm was evident in every detail. As she cleaned the mahogany desks and polished the marble surfaces, Maria couldn't help but reflect on how different the lives of those who worked there were compared to hers. However, she felt no envy or resentment, just a silent longing that one day her son Luke might have a better life. 4 days later, it was Thursday, and the day began like any other for Maria. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the firm's windows, she was already immersed in her daily cleaning routine. With every movement, she tried to shake off the accumulated fatigue from the previous night, when Luke had suffered one of his most severe respiratory crises. She had barely slept, and the weight of worry was still present in every thought. But as always, Maria strove to keep her mind focused on work. She knew any mistake could cost her dearly. However, exhaustion betrayed her. While cleaning one of the main offices, her hand, trembling from lack of sleep, accidentally spilled a cup of coffee over a stack of documents on the desk. The dark liquid spread quickly, staining the sheets of paper irreversibly. Maria felt her heart race in her chest. She knew those documents were important, but she couldn't imagine the extent of her mistake. She tried to clean it up as best she could, but the damage was done. She had barely finished drying the stains when a shadow loomed over her. She looked up and found herself face to face with the imposing figure of Mr. Ramirez, who had arrived early to review those very documents. His face, usually expressionless, twisted into an expression of contained fury when he saw what had happened. "What is this?" Ramirez exclaimed, his voice as cold as the marble covering the office floor. Maria tried to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. She felt a knot in her stomach, a mixture of fear and shame that paralyzed her. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Ramirez, it was an accident, she began to say, but Ramirez cut her off abruptly. "An accident? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Ramirez raised his voice, loud enough for other employees in the office to start peeking through the doors, curious about the commotion. Sofia Martinez, the young lawyer who had always treated Maria kindly, was among them. From her office, she watched the scene with a mix of disbelief and concern. She knew Ramirez was not a man who forgave mistakes, but she also knew Maria's situation and her son's, and she feared what might happen next. "This is unacceptable. I can't tolerate such incompetence," Ramirez shouted, his face reddening with anger. Maria lowered her head, feeling the tears threaten to overflow. She didn't want to cry, not in front of everyone, but the weight of the situation was too much to bear. "You're fired," Ramirez said with a coldness that chilled Maria to the bone. The silence that followed was deafening. The employees watching from a distance exchanged uncomfortable glances, not daring to intervene. Sofia, for a moment, thought about saying something, about defending Maria. But she knew that challenging Ramirez in public would only make things worse for her. "Collect your things and leave immediately," Ramirez ordered, ending the conversation. Maria, feeling the weight of all the stares on her, did as she was told. With trembling hands, she gathered her belongings, a small bag, a worn coat, and a pair of work gloves. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. She simply left the firm with her head down, trying to hold back the tears she could no longer control. As she crossed the building's doors, the cold morning air hit her hard. Maria stopped on the sidewalk, unable to take another step. Despair wrapped around her like a heavy blanket, and everything she had held inside finally overflowed. Tears ran uncontrollably down her face as she thought about Luke, how she would tell him she had lost her job, how she would now find the money for his treatments. Meanwhile, inside the firm, Sofia felt a deep sense of helplessness. She knew Maria didn't deserve that treatment, and that losing her job could have devastating consequences for her and her son. However, at that moment, she could do nothing more than watch another injustice unfold before her eyes. Ramirez, for his part, returned to his office without looking back, convinced he had done the right thing. For him, a mistake like that was inexcusable, no matter the personal circumstances of the person who made it. The firm had to remain impeccable, and that meant there was no room for compassion or empathy. But what Ramirez didn't know was that his decision had set off a chain of events that would forever change the lives of everyone at that firm. Maria's dismissal didn't just mean the loss of a crucial income for her. It also marked the beginning of an internal conflict for those who witnessed her humiliation. Sofia, Anna, and even Javier, the janitor, would start questioning their own roles in the company and in Maria's life. Maria returned to her small apartment in a state of complete despair. The streets she walked seemed empty, as if the whole world had stopped to reflect her own inner emptiness. When she opened the door to her home, the silence enveloped her, a silence that seemed to amplify the pain she carried in her heart. She closed the door behind her, leaning against the wood, and let the bag she was holding slip from her hands. Finally, when she was sure Luke wouldn't see her, she allowed the tears to flow freely. The small apartment, which had always been her refuge, now seemed more somber than ever. Maria slowly made her way to Luke's room, where the boy was resting in his bed, wrapped in the blankets she had lovingly placed that morning. The soft sound of his breathing, assisted by medical equipment, was a constant reminder of the gravity of their situation. Maria sat on the edge of the bed, watching her son's peaceful face as tears continued to stream down her cheeks. He was her entire world, and the uncertainty of how to keep him safe now that she had lost her job overwhelmed her. Maria knew she couldn't afford to panic. She had to be strong for Luke. There was no other choice. But the weight of reality was crushing. With no income, no job, and medical bills piling up, their situation was dire. Over the following days, Maria went out to look for work, but every door she knocked on seemed to close in her face. Her lack of experience in other fields, combined with the need for flexible hours to care for Luke, severely limited her options. Each no she received was another blow to her already fragile hope. The offices where she sought work were cold and impersonal, filled with looks of pity or indifference. No one saw the strong and resilient woman she was. They only saw a desperate mother, a cleaner without transferable skills, as they politely told her. Maria returned home every day with empty hands, feeling the world closing in around her, leaving her without an escape. At home, things were no easier. The money she had saved so carefully for emergencies was quickly running out. With every penny spent on food or medicine for Luke, the pressure mounted. Maria began to sell the few possessions that had any value: her wedding ring, which she no longer wore because it reminded her of a painful past, a family heirloom her mother had left her, and even some of Luke's few toys. Each sale was a stab in the heart, but she knew she had to do whatever it took to keep her son alive. Luke, though young, could feel the tension in the air. He was a smart child and knew something was wrong, even though his mother tried to hide it. One evening, as Maria was preparing dinner with what little was left in the pantry, Luke approached her, his face full of concern. "Mum, are you okay?" he asked in his soft, wavering voice. Maria forced a smile, kneeling to his level and gently caressing his face. "I'm fine, my love. I'm just a little tired," she replied, trying to hide the sadness that consumed her. Luke looked at her with his big eyes, knowing his mother wasn't telling the whole truth, but also understanding that she didn't want to worry him. With a slight nod, the boy hugged his mother and Maria held him tightly, wishing that this embrace could protect them from all the pain the world had thrown at them. Meanwhile, at the law firm, life continued as if nothing had happened. Maria's dismissal had caused no stir among the partners or staff, except for the few who had known her closely. Mr. Ramirez continued with his routine, not giving a second thought to the woman he had left without a job. To him, the world was a place where only the strong and efficient survived, and Maria, in his opinion, had not proven to be either. However, not everyone at the firm could ignore what had happened. Sofia Martinez, who had witnessed Maria's humiliation, couldn't stop thinking about her. Every time she passed by the offices where Maria used to work, she felt overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness and guilt. She knew Maria didn't deserve what had happened to her, and she couldn't just move on as if nothing had occurred. Sofia began to look for ways to help Maria, though she knew she had to be careful. Maria was a proud woman and wouldn't accept charity openly. Sofia decided to explore more subtle options, like financial assistance programs or employment opportunities in organizations that offered support to women in difficult situations. She knew Maria needed more than just a gesture of goodwill. She needed a real chance to rebuild her life. With that goal in mind, Sofia started using her contacts and resources to find a solution that she could offer Maria without making her feel belittled. Meanwhile, Ana Torres, Mr. Ramirez's personal assistant, was also grappling with her own crisis of conscience. Since Maria's dismissal, Ana couldn't shake the feeling that she had been complicit in an injustice. She had seen Ramirez's coldness many times before, but something about Maria's situation affected her differently. Perhaps because deep down, Ana felt that her ambition and desire to maintain her position at the firm were distancing her from what truly mattered in life. The problems with her brother Pablo, who had relapsed into his addiction, only heightened her sense of guilt and despair. Ana knew that if she continued down the path she was on, she might end up as insensitive as Ramirez, sacrificing her humanity for professional success. She began to question the decisions she had made in her life and whether it was truly worth staying in an environment where people were treated as disposable. In her small cleaning closet, Ana found Sofia one day, going through some papers. Although they weren't close, Ana felt the need to talk to someone else who was also affected by what had happened to Maria. With a sigh, she sat next to Sofia, and after a moment of silence began to talk about her own problems, about her brother Pablo, and how Maria's situation had reignited a deep unrest within her. Sofia, always empathetic, listened attentively to Ana. Upon learning about Pablo's issues, Sofia saw an opportunity to help both women. She offered Ana a deal. If she helped Maria, Sofia would use her contacts to find the best assistance for Pablo and ensure that his problem wouldn't affect his reputation at the firm. Ana, caught between her ambition and her growing guilt, finally agreed. From that moment on, Ana and Sofia began working together in secret, looking for ways to help Maria out of the despair she was trapped in. Ana, with her access to the firm's resources, found some organizations that could offer employment or financial support to Maria. However, they still feared that any action discovered by Ramirez could jeopardize their careers. As they worked on their plan, Ana and Sofia began to develop a mutual respect that hadn't existed before. Ana, who had always put her career above everything else, started to see in Sofia an example of how one could be successful without losing humanity in the process. On the other hand, Sofia saw in Ana a woman who, despite her mistakes, was trying to do the right thing in an environment that often pushed her in the opposite direction. The plan began to take shape. Ana found an organization that offered flexible job programs for women in difficult situations, and Sofia contacted them to ensure Maria was considered as a candidate. They also managed to identify a couple of charities that could help with Luke's medical expenses without Maria having to apply directly, which would be managed anonymously. Despite their progress, both women knew they had to be extremely careful. Any misstep could jeopardize both their plans and their careers. Ramirez was known for being ruthless with those who challenged his authority, and although he had no idea what was happening, Ana and Sofia knew the risk was high. Meanwhile, Maria continued struggling each day to keep her son safe. She was completely unaware of the efforts being made on her behalf, and with each passing day, her hope grew smaller. But, although she didn't know it, the wheels of fate had started turning, and the help she so desperately needed was closer than she imagined. As Maria fought to hold on to hope amid despair, in another part of the city, the actions of her allies were beginning to produce results that would change her life. However, neither Sofia nor Ana knew that someone else was watching. Someone with the resources and determination to make an even greater difference. Andrew Garcia, a successful businessman and influential client of the law firm, had noticed Maria's absence during one of his visits. Although his interactions with her had been minimal, he had always seen in her a hard-working and dignified woman, someone who, despite the adversities, performed her job with dedication and humility. Andrew, who had grown up in humble circumstances before achieving success, felt an innate empathy for those struggling to get ahead. One day, while Andrew was reviewing some contracts at the law firm, he casually mentioned to Ramirez that he no longer saw the usual cleaner in the building. Ramirez, with his usual coldness, dismissed the question, briefly mentioning that Maria had been fired for incompetence. Although Ramirez's tone was indifferent, the news left an impression on Andrew that he couldn't shake. Later, when Andrew left the firm, he decided to investigate on his own. With his influence and contacts, it wasn't difficult for him to obtain the information he needed. What he discovered about Maria's dismissal and the circumstances surrounding it deeply unsettled him. The image of a single mother struggling to care for a gravely ill child, fired so coldly and unjustly, touched him to his core. Andrew knew he couldn't stand idly by. That same night, while Maria tried to fall asleep, worried about how she would handle the mounting expenses, Andrew was making a decision. Using one of his personal funds, he instructed his assistant to make a significant deposit into Maria's bank account, ensuring the transaction was completely anonymous. He wanted the money to reach her without her feeling it was an act of charity, but rather a gesture of support in a critical moment. The next morning, Maria woke up with the same heaviness that had accompanied her for weeks. The night before, she had stayed up watching over Luke's bed, observing how his small body struggled to breathe with the help of oxygen. The fear of losing him had become a constant shadow, a weight that never left her at peace. Determined not to be overcome by fear, Maria got up and, after making sure Luke was stable, she went to check her bank account. She wanted to calculate how much she could offer the hospital as a down payment for the treatment Luke urgently needed. When she opened her account, her eyes widened in disbelief. Where she expected to see an insignificant amount, she saw a surprisingly large sum. Maria nearly fainted when she saw the balance. The amount was enough not only to cover Luke's treatments, but also to provide them with a stability they had never known. Confused and scared that it might be a mistake, Maria investigated the source of the money but found no clear clue. There was no name or reference, just an anonymous deposit that, nevertheless, seemed to have arrived at just the right moment. For several minutes, Maria stared at the screen, unsure whether to feel relieved or afraid. Finally, the feeling of relief began to prevail. The tears she had held back for so long began to flow, but this time they were not tears of despair but of gratitude. No matter where the money had come from, she knew Luke would be okay, at least for now. It was as if a miracle had occurred, and although she didn't understand how, she was grateful beyond words. Meanwhile, at the law firm, the situation had started to change drastically. Andrew's decision to withdraw all his accounts from the firm in protest of the way Ramirez had treated Maria had shaken the firm's foundations. The partners, alarmed by the loss of such an influential client and the potential repercussions it could have on their reputation, called an emergency meeting. At the meeting, Ramirez, who had always been confident in his position and power, faced the real consequences of his decisions for the first time. The partners, pressured by the threat of more important clients withdrawing, made the drastic decision to fire Ramirez, leaving him without the safety net he had built over the years. Ramirez's dismissal marked the beginning of a new era at the firm, one in which decisions would be made with more humanity and less coldness. The news of Ramirez's dismissal spread quickly throughout the firm, causing surprise among the employees. Anna, upon hearing the news, felt a mix of relief and fear. She knew that Ramirez's departure could be an opportunity for things to improve, but she was also aware that the firm's stability was at stake. For her part, Sophia saw Ramirez's dismissal as a sign that they were on the right track. Although she still didn't know about the anonymous deposit in Maria's account, she felt that the winds of change were blowing in their favor. Maria, on the other hand, still had no idea who her mysterious benefactor was. Although the idea that someone had done this for her without expecting anything in return filled her with hope, she also felt a great responsibility. Now, with the necessary resources to care for Luke, she knew she had to seize this opportunity to rebuild her life. The dismissal of Mr. Ramirez left a sense of uncertainty in the firm. Some employees murmured in the hallways, surprised by the sudden downfall of a man who had seemed untouchable until then. But for Ana Torres and Sofia Martinez, it meant much more than just a change in office hierarchy. It was the beginning of a new chapter, not only for the firm but also for their own lives. Ana, who had been struggling with guilt for not intervening in Maria's dismissal, felt an unexpected relief. Ramirez was no longer there to exert his relentless control, and with his absence the firm began to breathe a different, more humane air. For the first time in a long while, Ana felt free to act according to her principles, without the constant fear of reprisal. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that her path at the firm had reached a turning point. Although she had helped Sophia devise a plan for Maria, she knew there was still more to do, both for herself and for her brother Pablo. Sophia, on the other hand, was determined to seize this change to improve the firm's culture. She knew that with Ramirez out, she had the chance to implement more ethical and fair practices, not only for the employees but also in the way cases were handled. But her main concern was still Maria. Although she was unaware of the anonymous deposit in Maria's account, Sophia was determined to push forward with her plan to help her. That same day, Sophia met with Anna in the break room. The atmosphere was different now. There was a sense of hope in the air, a renewed energy that the two women shared. "With Ramirez out of the way, I think we can do much more to help Maria," Sophia said, taking a sip of coffee. "How's the research on charitable organizations going?" Anna nodded, showing Sophia a list of contacts she had gathered. "I've found some organizations that offer financial support for medical treatments, and I've also spoken with an agency that specializes in helping women find jobs with flexible hours. Maria could fit in perfectly, but I think we need something more. Something that truly restores the dignity she lost when she was fired." Sophia considered Anna's words, and after a few moments of reflection, suggested something that had been on her mind for days. "What if we help her start her own business?" Sophia proposed, her eyes shining with excitement. "Maria has a lot of experience in cleaning and knows what it takes to do a good job. She could start a cleaning service, and with a little support she could hire other women in similar situations. It would not only give her financial independence, but also empower her." Anna was thoughtful. The idea was ambitious but also inspiring. Maria had always worked for others, never receiving the recognition she deserved. Giving her the chance to be her own boss might be exactly what she needed to rebuild her life. "I like the idea," Anna finally responded, "but she'll need some startup capital. Do you think Andrew Garcia would be willing to invest? After all, it was his decision to withdraw his accounts that led to Ramirez's dismissal. He might be interested in supporting something like this." Sophia nodded. Andrew was a man with a strong sense of justice, and although he hadn't yet revealed his connection to the deposit in Maria's account, Sophia sensed that he would be willing to help if he knew about the plan. "I'll talk to him about the idea," Sophia said, determined. "In the meantime, we could start organizing everything Maria will need to launch when she's ready." As Sophia and Anna worked out the details of their plan, Maria was experiencing a drastic change in her life. With the money she had received anonymously, she was able to pay off her most urgent debts and secure the necessary medical treatment for Luke. The improvement in her son's health gave her a peace of mind she hadn't felt in a long time, and for the first time in weeks, she was able to sleep soundly, knowing Luke was in good hands. However, the mystery of the money's origin still lingered in her mind. Despite her gratitude, she couldn't help but wonder who had intervened in her life so decisively. Though her attempts to trace the source of the deposit had been fruitless, she decided to set aside her concerns for now and focus on what really mattered, her son's well-being. A few days later, while Maria was at home preparing a meal, she received an unexpected call. It was Sophia who greeted her with her usual warm and kind tone. "Maria, I've been thinking a lot about you and how we might help you move forward. I know you've been through some tough times, but I have an idea I think you might be interested in." Maria, surprised by the call, listened intently as Sophia explained the plan. The idea of starting her own cleaning business was something she had never considered, but the more she listened, the more she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could do it. "I don't know, Sophia, it sounds too big for me," Maria said, a mix of fear and excitement in her voice. "I've never run anything in my life, and I don't have the resources to start." "Don't worry about that," Sophia responded confidently. "You won't be alone in this. You'll have financial and logistical support. Plus, you have all the experience needed, and most importantly, you have the determination. This could be a new beginning for you and Luke." Maria was silent for a moment, processing everything Sophia had said. The idea of being her own boss, of having a business that not only supported her, but also helped other women in similar situations, was something she had never dreamed of. And though the fear was still there, the spark of hope that had remained inside her began to grow. "Okay, Sophia, I'll try," she finally said, her voice filled with determination. "I don't know how I'll do it, but I'll try." The days following Sophia's call were a whirlwind of emotions and activities for Maria. The idea of starting her own business was both exciting and terrifying. She had never run anything in her life, but with the help and support of Sophia and Anna, she decided to face this challenge with the same determination she had used to face so many other difficulties in her life. The first step was meeting with Andrei Garcia, whom Sophia had convinced to invest in the project. Maria had heard of Andrew at the firm but had never had direct contact with him. The idea of meeting someone so influential made her nervous, but when they first met in a quiet cafe, Maria was surprised by his warm and humane demeanor. "Maria, it's a pleasure to finally meet you," Andrew said with a sincere smile. "I've heard a lot about you, and I'm impressed by what you've accomplished despite all the difficulties. I believe this project will not only help you, but could also be an opportunity for other women in similar situations to find a way out." Maria, still nervous, nodded. Andrew's words filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. As she listened to Andrew and Sophia discuss plans for the business, she began to visualize what this could mean for her and Luke. It was no longer just about survival. It was an opportunity to build something meaningful, something that could provide them with a more stable and dignified life. With Andrew's investment and the guidance of Sophia and Anna, the process of launching the business began in earnest. The cleaning company, which Maria decided to name Hands of Hope, started to take shape. Andrew provided the initial capital to buy supplies, equipment, and hire the first employees. These women, carefully selected by Maria and Sophia, were mostly single mothers or women who had been through difficult situations, just like Maria. For all of them, this opportunity represented more than just a job. It was a new beginning. The first few weeks were intense. Maria, though initially insecure, discovered she had a natural talent for management. Her experience as a cleaner gave her a deep understanding of what was needed to provide quality service. And with Sophia and Anna's help, she quickly learned the administrative skills necessary to run the company. There were challenges, from finding clients to coordinating schedules, but each obstacle overcome only reinforced her determination. As Maria worked tirelessly to establish her business, the relationship between her and Andrew began to evolve. What had initially been a business relationship was slowly transforming into a friendship based on mutual respect. Andrew, who had always admired Maria's strength and resilience, found in her a source of inspiration. As they spent more time together, helping her develop the business and ensuring Luke received the best possible medical care, Andrew began to see Maria as more than just a business partner. There was a genuine connection forming between them, one that both were beginning to recognize but had yet to express. For her part, Maria also began to see Andrew differently. Although she had initially felt intimidated by his success and status, she soon realized that Andrew was, above all, a person who valued justice and empathy. His constant support, not only financial but also emotional, made her feel valued in a way she hadn't experienced in a long time. Meanwhile, Sophia and Anna continued to be a fundamental pillar in Maria's life. Sophia, with her organized approach and clear vision, helped Maria establish contacts and expand the business beyond what she had imagined. Anna, on the other hand, focused on the well-being of the employees, ensuring that all were treated fairly and had access to the resources they needed to balance their work life with their family responsibilities. In just a few months, Hands of Hope began to gain recognition in the community, not only for the quality of their work, but also for the mission they represented, empowering women who, like Maria, had been marginalized or overlooked, giving them the opportunity to rebuild their lives. The business grew rapidly, and with that growth, Maria began to realize that she had found something more than just a way to make a living. She had found a purpose. The transformation in Maria's life was evident to everyone around her. Her son Luke, now receiving the treatments he needed, began to show signs of improvement. and the atmosphere in their home changed dramatically. The despair that had once consumed her was replaced by a sense of hope and security. One day, as Maria returned home after a long day of work, she paused in front of her apartment door and took a deep breath. She looked around at her small home, which had witnessed so many tears and struggles, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. Although the journey had been tough, she knew that she was now in a much better place, not only because of the business's success, but because she had found something invaluable, the strength to fight for a better future for herself and Luke. In the days that followed, with hands of hope in full swing, Maria's life seemed to have turned completely around. What had once been an uncertain future, filled with fears and despair, had transformed into a path of success and stability, both for her and Luke. Each day, as she supervised her team and managed new contracts, Maria felt a satisfaction she had never experienced before. However, one persistent question still lingered in her mind. Who had been the benefactor who enabled her to turn her life around? The money she had received anonymously had been the starting point for everything. Without that initial support, she wouldn't have been able to pay for Luke's treatments or start her business. Despite her attempts to leave it behind and focus on the present, Maria couldn't help but think about that unknown person who had done so much for her without asking for anything in return. Meanwhile, the relationship between Maria and Andrew continued to grow. They spent more and more time together, not only in relation to the business, but also in more personal moments. Andrew had become a central figure in Luke's life, whom he saw as a mentor and friend. The days they spent together were filled with deep and sincere conversations, and gradually, both began to realize that what they felt for each other went beyond simple friendship. However, Andrew carried a burden on his conscience. He knew that sooner or later he would have to confess to Maria that he had been the one who made the deposit in her bank account, the one that had set everything in motion. He knew that hiding the truth was a weight he needed to lift, but he feared how Maria would react when she found out. He didn't want her to feel that her success had depended on an act of charity. He wanted her to know that he had done it out of respect and admiration for her. One afternoon, as Maria and Andrew strolled through a park near her home, Luke ran ahead of them, enjoying the fresh air and his increasingly robust health. The atmosphere was peaceful, the sun was beginning to set, and the leaves from the trees were slowly falling around them, creating a scene that seemed straight out of a dream. Andrew knew this was the moment. With his heart racing, he stopped and looked Maria in the eyes. "Maria, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice serious but gentle. Maria looked at him, noticing the concern on his face. She stopped too, turning her body to face him completely. "What's wrong, Andrew? You can tell me anything." Andrew took a deep breath before continuing. "The money you received in your account, it was from me. I was the one who made the anonymous deposit." The silence that followed was almost palpable. Maria looked at him, processing his words. The revelation took her by surprise, and a mix of emotions crossed her face. Surprise, disbelief, and finally, a deep understanding. "It was you?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Yes, it was me," Andrew confirmed. "I did it because I saw how unfair your dismissal was, and because I knew you needed help. But I didn't want you to know because I didn't want you to see it as an act of charity. I did it because I respect you, because I saw in you a strong woman who just needed a chance to show everything she could achieve. I wanted to give you that chance without making you feel indebted to me." Maria remained silent, trying to take it all in. She had been wondering for so long who could have intervened in her life in such a decisive way. And now that she knew, the pieces of the puzzle finally fit together. She felt a surge of emotions, but what prevailed was a deep sense of gratitude and respect for Andrew. "I don't know what to say," she finally murmured. "All this time I've been wondering who could have done something so big for me and Luke. And now that I know it was you, I don't know how to thank you, but I also know that what I've achieved with my effort. You gave me the opportunity, but I took the reins. So, Andrew, I don't see this as charity. I see it as an act of faith in me. And that means more than you can imagine." Andrew felt the tension in his chest begin to ease. Maria's words confirmed what he had hoped, that she wouldn't see his help as a debt, but as genuine support. "I'm very proud of what you've accomplished, Maria," Andrew said sincerely, "and I'm grateful to have been a part of this, even if it was from the shadows." Maria smiled, a warm and sincere smile that reflected the gratitude and affection she felt for him. "Thank you, Andrew, for everything." Maria stepped closer to him and hugged him tightly, a hug that sealed not only her gratitude, but also the deep connection they had formed over time. The rest of the walk passed in a serenity they both appreciated. Luke, oblivious to the conversation that had just taken place, continued playing with the fallen leaves, and Maria and Andrew, walking together, felt that something had changed between them forever. The truth had come to light, and with it, a new chapter in their relationship had begun. That night, as Maria reflected on everything that had happened, she realized that although Andrew had played a crucial role in her life, everything she had achieved since then was the result of her own effort and determination. Andrew had believed in her when no one else did, and for that, she would always be grateful. But now she knew that her success, her business, and Luke's stability were also the outcome of her inner strength and the support network she had built around her. With the truth revealed between Maria and Andrew, their relationship reached a new level of trust and closeness. Andrew's confession about his role as the anonymous benefactor had freed them both from the burdens they carried, allowing them to move forward with greater clarity and determination. Meanwhile, Hands of Hope continued to grow, becoming a symbol of success and overcoming adversity for many women who, like Maria, had faced difficult circumstances. The business, which had started as a small cleaning company, was now expanding into new areas. Maria, with the constant support of Sophia and Anna, had introduced additional services such as maintenance and gardening, hiring more women who needed a second chance in life. These women, like Maria, had found in Hands of Hope not just a job, but a place where they could rebuild their self-esteem and rediscover their worth. Every time Maria saw a new employee start her job, she remembered how she felt when she lost her job at the law firm. She knew that many of them arrived with the same mix of desperation and hope that she had felt, and she made sure they found a supportive and understanding environment. With each satisfied customer, with every recommendation they received, Maria felt that she was contributing to something much bigger than just a business. She was helping to transform lives. Luke's well-being had also improved remarkably. Thanks to ongoing medical treatments and a more stable environment, his health had taken a positive turn. Although cystic fibrosis remained a daily struggle, Luke now had more energy and could enjoy his childhood more fully. Every time Maria saw her son running and playing, she felt that all the sacrifices and hard work had been worth it. On the other hand, Ana Torres's life had also taken a significant turn. After Ramirez's dismissal and the change of direction at the law firm, Ana had decided it was time to re-evaluate her priorities. Inspired by the path Maria had walked and by Sophia's unconditional support, Ana began working on reintegration projects for people with addiction problems, using her experience to help others who, like her brother Pablo, needed a second chance. Pablo, who had entered a high-quality rehabilitation program thanks to Sophia's contacts, was beginning to show signs of recovery. Although the road was long and full of challenges, Ana felt more optimistic than ever. The guilt she had carried for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a new sense of purpose and direction. Now, instead of focusing exclusively on her career, Ana had found a balance between her work and personal life, dedicating time to causes she truly cared about. Sophia, for her part, had been promoted at the firm and now held a position that allowed her to implement the reforms she had always dreamed of. With her focus on social justice and equitable treatment of all employees, Sophia had managed to transform the firm's culture, creating an environment where ethics and humanity were as important as financial results. Although her responsibilities had increased, Sophia remained a pillar of support for Maria and Ana, guiding them and celebrating each of their achievements. In an informal meeting in Sophia's office, the three women sat down to talk about how their lives had changed in recent months. The atmosphere was warm and relaxed, a marked difference from the tense and uncertain days they had shared at the beginning of their relationship. "I never imagined we'd be here, talking about successes and future plans," said Maria, smiling as she looked at her two friends. "It's been a long road, but I couldn't have done it without you." "And we couldn't have done it without you," Anna replied with a knowing smile. "You've been an inspiration, Maria. You've shown us that with the right support we can overcome any obstacle." Sophia nodded, feeling proud of how each of them had grown and evolved. "This is just the beginning," said Sophia. "We have much more to do, and I'm sure that together we can achieve anything." The conversation continued, filled with laughter and anecdotes, as the three women celebrated their friendship and the success they had built together. But as they talked about future projects and plans, the subject of Andrew soon came up. "So, how are things with Andrew?" Anna asked with a playful tone that made Maria blush slightly. "We're doing well," Maria replied, smiling. "Since his confession, everything has been clearer. There are no more secrets between us, and that has made our relationship much stronger. He has been a great support, not just for me, but also for Luke. I couldn't ask for a better person by our side." "I'm glad to hear that," said Sophia sincerely. "Andrew is a good man, and I'm sure he feels the same about you." Maria nodded, feeling a comforting warmth in her chest as she thought about Andrew. She knew their relationship was blossoming in a way she hadn't anticipated, and although there were still steps to take, she was ready to walk that path with him. The day concluded with Maria, Anna, and Sophia leaving the office to head to a small celebration they had organized for the employees of Hands of Hope. It was a special day where they were going to recognize the hard work of all the women who had contributed to the success of the business. As they walked towards the event venue, under the starry city sky, Maria felt that her life had come full circle. Not only had she rebuilt her life, but she had also found a new family in the women and friends around her. The lights of the event shone in the distance, and as they approached, Maria took a moment to silently give thanks for everything she had achieved. She knew the future would continue to present challenges, but she no longer feared tomorrow. With her strength, determination, and the love and support of the people around her, she was ready to face anything. The afternoon of the Hands of Hope event was a resounding success. The women who had been part of the project, from the first employees to the most recent additions, gathered to celebrate the hard work, solidarity, and achievements they had reached together. Maria felt proud as she looked around, seeing the smiling faces and warm embraces shared among everyone. The atmosphere was full of joy and camaraderie, a testament to the power of unity and shared effort. As the event came to a close, Maria withdrew to a quiet corner of the hall, watching as the women said their goodbyes with promises to see each other again soon. Sophia and Anna approached her with radiant smiles and surrounded her with their usual support. "You did it, Maria," said Sophia, gently touching her arm. "Look at what you've built. Not just a business, but a community." "And the best part is that this is just the beginning," added Anna. "The future is bright, and I'm sure all these women will carry with them what they've learned here, wherever they go." Maria nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. She knew this was just the beginning, but she also felt that she had reached a pinnacle in her life, a place where she could finally breathe easy, knowing that all the effort had been worth it. That same night, after all the employees had said their goodbyes, Maria, Sophia, and Anna stayed a little longer, sharing one last glass of wine as a closing gesture. Andrew joined them, having been present throughout the event, watching from the shadows as the business he had helped start flourished into something much bigger than he had imagined. "I'm incredibly proud of all of you," said Andrew, raising his glass, "not just for what you've achieved with Hands of Hope, but for the strength, determination, and heart you've shown at every step of the way." The three women smiled and raised their glasses in a silent toast, full of gratitude and hope for the future. Soon after, Maria and Andrew left together, walking under the soft light of the moon. The walk home was quiet, with only the sound of their footsteps breaking the silence of the night. Maria, feeling safe and at peace, stopped for a moment to look at Andrew. "Today has been an incredible day," she said, taking his hand. not just because of what we've achieved with the business, but because I feel like we've finally found our place, our purpose. Andrew looked at her tenderly, nodding. It's true. Everything we've been through has led us here, and I can't help but feel excited about what's to come next. Maria felt that it was time to say something she had been holding in her heart for a while. Andrew, she began in a soft but determined tone, I've been thinking a lot about what we've built together, not just in the business but in our lives, and I know that what I feel for you goes beyond gratitude or friendship. I've realized that I love you, and I don't want to keep it to myself anymore. Andrew stopped, surprised and moved by Maria's confession. He gently took her hands, looking deeply into her eyes. I love you too, Maria. I knew it from the moment I decided to help you, and every day we've spent together has confirmed what I feel for you. I love you not just for the strong and brave woman you are, but for everything you represent to me and to Luke. I want to be by your side, not just as a friend or partner, but as someone who loves you and wants to build a future with you. Andrew's words resonated in Maria's heart, like a melody she had longed to hear for a long time. At that moment, under the light of the moon and stars, they embraced tightly, sealing their love and mutual commitment. A few weeks later, in an intimate ceremony surrounded only by their closest loved ones, Maria and Andrew were married. The wedding was simple but full of meaning. Luke stood by their side the entire time, the happiest witness to the union of his mother with the man who had brought so much stability and love into their lives. The ceremony was held in a small garden, decorated with brightly colored flowers that symbolized the rebirth of the lives of everyone present. Sofia and Anna were there, smiling and celebrating with the couple, knowing that they had played an important role in the love story that was being written. After the ceremony, everyone gathered at a small reception where they shared laughter, stories, and dances under the stars. It was a night full of joy, a perfect culmination of everything they had overcome together. When the party came to an end and the guests left, Maria and Andrew lingered for a moment in the garden, enjoying the tranquility of the night. Maria, in her simple yet elegant wedding dress, approached Andrew and rested her head on his shoulder. I never thought life could be so beautiful, she whispered, but here we are after everything we've been through. And the best is yet to come, Andrew replied, wrapping her in his arms. This is just the beginning of our life together. Maria's story is a powerful testimony of resilience and solidarity. Through her determination and the support of those who believed in her, she transformed her life and her son's. The story highlights the importance of mutual support and the possibility of redemption, showing that with faith in oneself and others, any challenge can be overcome. It is a celebration of love and hope, reminding us that even in the most difficult moments, we can build a future full of promise and happiness. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new content. See you in the next video.